So Netroots Nation is from what I remember back in the day, it used to be a progressive conference that a lot of progressives and liberals and people on the left would go to. Kind of like a Politicon, I guess you would say, for progressives, and it was basically like Politicon before Politicon even existed. I don't know when Politicon started. I just went to the my first Politicon last year in October, but I'm not sure how long it's been around for, but for sure, I think it's been, as far as I know, it's been around maybe for 5 years, 4 years, something like that. But Netroots Nation has been around forever, and they used to be pretty decent, and that was when the left wing was actually left wing. And unfortunately, now that it's a lot more neoliberal these days, and as many people know, just overall just anti-Trump, essentially, it's, these kind of conferences and stuff aren't really that great anymore. And the people that seem to appear at the Netroots Nation type events are not people that progressives really care for anymore. And I know I definitely don't. But Bernie Sanders, people like him, still seem to appear. So Bernie Sanders actually decided to not appear at this year's Netroots Nation. And he said that there was like a scheduling conflict or whatever, but apparently one of the main reasons was that one of the moderators was not to his liking, and I definitely don't blame him. So, and I'll get to that in more detail in a second. So the article is from the Daily Beast. It says, Bernie Sanders to skip Netroots Nation. Before he committed to attending, his team brought up potential concerns that a moderator might have been biased towards him. So, as I said, it seems that Bernie Sanders actually decided not to go because of its scheduling conflict. But let's get into the details of the article here first. It says, before confirming his attendance at this weekend's Netroots Nation conference in Philadelphia, members of Bernie Sanders' team raised concerns about one of the moderators who would be asking questions at a presidential candidate forum on Saturday, according to two sources who described the conversations to the Daily Beast. The campaign's questions centered on Marcos Moulitsas, the founder and publisher of the progressive activist website Daily Kos, who has been publicly critical of the independent from Vermont. By the way, Daily Kos, another website, not necessarily organization, but a website that is fake faux-aggressive, essentially. Fake progressive, faux-aggressive, whichever term you want to use. But they also used to be pretty big back in the day. But when 2016 rolled around and Bernie challenged Hillary Clinton, Daily Kos became anti-Bernie pretty much 95% of the time. So, because they're like a blog, they're kind of like a blog website type thing where people they have to become like members or like sign up or something, and then they just post blogs. I did it a couple of times. I never really cared for it. But apparently Keith Olbermann, former MSNBC host, he used to be pretty big on there. He was definitely the most prominent member for sure. So, and he was friends with Marcos Moulitsas. And but that website sucks now for sure. So it's not it's not a progressive activist network. I don't know any activists that work for Daily Kos. But anyway, it says Sanders will not be able to attend due to scheduling difficulties, though his campaign announced that national co-chair Nina Turner would be there on Friday. So even with the Moulitsas kind of attacking Bernie forever, I mean, he's done on many, many occasions, the campaign still decided to respond nicely, even due to Moulitsas' past remarks. It says, we have a long and positive relationship with Marcos, Mary, Eric, and the whole Netroots team, an aide to the senator said. We, of course, trusted Marcos' commitment to neutrality, and we confirmed as much to them. Although Bernie's schedule precludes his ability to attend, we wish the organizers and attendees a successful weekend. Sanders' team had gone from a solid no last Friday to just a few days later trying to figure out if they could make the event work. One source involved in the scheduling said the moderator was not a deal breaker. So, okay. It says Moulitsas has been critical of Sanders recently, which could have been the impetus for concern. In a recent interview on Meet the Press, he called Sanders divisive. And it says the problem with Bernie Sanders is that he has the same exact message he had 4 years ago. That's what Moulitsas said. It was on the same Meet the Press interview. And Bernie Sanders actually responded to Marcos Moulitsas' comments on MSNBC's Chuck Todd's show. It was not Meet the Press, but it was Meet the Press Daily, MTP Daily. So it was not Meet the Press. Which is Meet the Press is the Sunday show Chuck Todd hosts, and then MTP Daily is the show that's hosted by him on Mondays through Fridays. But anyway, Bernie Sanders, that prompted a response from both Sanders' campaign manager, Faz Shakir, and a tweet from the senator himself that appeared to be a direct reference to the criticism. And this is what Bernie Sanders said in his tweet. It says, "My skeptics often accuse me of being boring, of hammering the same themes. They're probably right. It's never made sense to me that a few people have incredible wealth and power while most have none. Should we ever achieve justice, I promise I'll write some new speeches." Earlier this year, Moulitsas took issue with Sanders' decision to appear on a Fox News town hall, saying that it showed the senator was not a team player, quote unquote. Even before Sanders launched his second bid for the White House, Moulitsas was quoted as saying, "I don't see a lot of lasting energy for Bernie." Yeah, I don't think Marcos Moulitsas knows anything about the reality of the Bernie Sanders momentum, let alone the progressive momentum. He's just a fucking concerned, trolling jackass that has zero credibility. Nobody gives a fuck who he is or cares about what he has to say, other than, like, if he were to say something stupid, people just respond to him and mock him. But nobody takes seriously anything he has to say. Any of his insight and his opinions don't mean shit. So I don't even know why he's brought on MSNBC, but obviously that's because MSNBC is the Democratic Apologist Network, and obviously they're going to bring on all those fucking neoliberal hacks. By the way, after Bernie Sanders refused, or the news came out in this Daily Beast article about Bernie not wanting to attend Netroots Nation, So Marcos Moulitsas responded in a tweet by saying, "Bernie Sanders goes on Fox, but he's afraid of me? Sheesh." And then he posted a link to the article. And then another person who I think is affiliated, with Daily Kos and Marcos Moulitsas, their name just says Fiddler, Fiddler. It's a woman. She says, "So Bernie Sanders is too scared to face Marcos, at Marcos, and the Netroots, but wants to run for president? Okay." And then again, a link to the, same Daily Beast article. By the way, it should be noted, though, and this was ignored, obviously, not surprising. It says, as it says in the article, it said at the very end of the article, that's very convenient. It says, "Sanders is far from the only top-tier candidate to miss the event. South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg will not be able to make it, and former Vice President Joe Biden, whose campaign headquarters are in Philadelphia, is not attending either." So even the person that's from Philadelphia is not going to the event that's in Philadelphia. I mean, come on, man. And then Pete Buttigieg, who everybody's fucking in the Democratic Party and among neoliberal centrist circles is fucking fawning over and thinking he's the next big thing, when he's barely even able to run what's going on in his fucking 100,000, town population. He can't even run things there, but he wants to run for president. Everybody's falling over themselves and coming all over themselves, loving this guy. He didn't attend either. But so what do? They put this at the bottom of the article because they don't want to get, and then the headline, what does the headline say again? It says, "Bernie Sanders to skip Netroots Nation." Why aren't they mentioning Buttigieg and Biden until the very end of the article? Very convenient, isn't it? So that's how these people operate, man. And, somebody like Marcos Moulitsas, honestly, Bernie shouldn't even respond to that guy. Let people like myself and other people on Twitter respond to them. Luckily, Bernie Sanders doesn't reference him directly, which would be even worse. So don't do that. but he shouldn't even bother, man. Marcos is not a real person. He's not a relevant person at all. Honestly, the guy. So let me just tell you something about Daily Kos. Daily Kos, for those of you who may not know, has not been, as I was saying earlier, it's just a blog that people post articles or whatever posts and shit on, but it hasn't been relevant in like years, like even before 2016, like so during like the Obama years, Daily Kos wasn't that big. It was getting less and less relevant as the years went on. I mean, maybe it was somewhat relevant to some extent in the beginning of Obama's President Obama's term. So his first term, during his first term, the first half of his presidency, maybe it was relevant back then between 2009 and 2013. But since I would say after 2013 is when it's really started to like just nosedive. The relevancy of Daily Kos is nil. I mean, nobody takes them seriously. The publications that are legitimate out there don't even reference anything that's going on there, and nobody cares what the people have to say on there. It probably didn't help them when Keith Olbermann left. Like I said, Keith Olbermann was posting articles on there. These days, I don't hear anything from Keith Olbermann anymore, so I doubt he's posting political stuff. All I see Keith Olbermann posting these days is it's actually some useful tweets for once, because he's not just like lashing out at Russia Gate and shit. But Olbermann's posting videos of like, I think dogs, like abandoned dogs that are being kind of left on the streets and then adopting them. So he's putting videos about how, well, you should adopt this dog and adopt this dog and that dog, and this is a dog that's been living on the streets, blah blah. So he's actually doing some decent stuff. Before that, though, he was insane. I mean, he was doing, if I remember correctly, Keith Olbermann was doing commentary videos for GQ, I believe it was, and he was posting these rants on GQ.com or something, or GQ's YouTube page or something. You could probably find the rants on YouTube. But he was just going on there and just like fucking just whining and complaining and just going on and on about fucking, oh, Russiagate, oh, Trump is a Putin puppet, and oh, the Russians are coming. Just, he was basically doing his best. I think, honestly, now that I think about it, I think he was doing his best Rachel Maddow impression. Because remember, Keith Olbermann, when he was on MSNBC, his show was right before Rachel Maddow. So Rachel Maddow, so he was the lead into Rachel Maddow's show. Now, Maddow's show was not as popular as Olbermann's, but it was gaining kind of that kind of popular feeling. It was, and obviously it's very popular among, Democrat loyalists and Russiagators, essentially anti-Trump people now. Back then, she was actually much more progressive, and so was Keith. And they were a good, 1-2 punch tandem. Now they don't. And they were friends, but two, by the way, because he promoted he promoted her from Air America onto MSNBC, and he would bring her on as a guest and everything, and eventually she got her own show, and now she's at MSNBC making I don't know, $7 million a year or something. I think she signed a couple of years ago. She signed like a $30 million contract for 4 years or something, which is a total waste of money, but. She was somebody that Olbermann brought up, and after Olbermann left, they stopped being friends because he felt stabbed in the back by her or something. So, yeah, it's Daily Kos is not something that should be taken seriously. If you're Bernie Sanders, you're somebody from his campaign, even Faz Shakir, who's his campaign manager, don't respond. And if you're going to respond, obviously just keep it to like a minimum and don't mention his name. Don't quote tweet him or anything. The way Bernie Sanders did it was smart, because he just mentioned, oh yeah, people say I'm boring and that, my talking points haven't changed. Yeah, because nothing has changed in this country, so I have to keep harping away on the same problems. So what else are you going to do? We still don't have Medicare for all. We still don't have free college. We still haven't gotten rid of our student loan debt, which is Bernie wants to get rid of it with the $1.6 billion student debt that we're currently in. This is a topic that I talked about in the last episode. And yeah, so Bernie's doing that stuff, ending the wars, all that stuff, living wage. These things are not even close to happening, other than the conversation being, happening in, Democratic debates and stuff. It's still not happening. It hasn't happened. Now, it's good that we're having the conversation. That's a good step forward, but we need to actually get to the point of having the conversation and making sure it's out there for people to for people to talk about it more. Now it's being talked about a little bit, but the voters definitely have to get more informed on it as well. Not just progressives, because progressives obviously know about it, but outside of progressives, there's a lot more people that need to be informed on what the progressive policies are out there. So, and that's something Bernie Sanders does, and he's going to continue doing it no matter whether Marcos and his fucking goons, neoliberal goons, find it boring or whatever.